pleased to say that next on the programme is the leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch. Great to have you here with us today. So much to discuss, as always. I did just want to start with Iran, if I may, because Donald Trump has said the US is going to blockade the Strait of Hormuz starting at 3 p.m. UK time. Is that something the UK should be getting involved in?
Well, what I've said is if you break it, you own it. What's unclear to us is what his strategy is. And I don't think that if the strategy is unclear, we should be getting involved. What I want Keir Starmer to do is focus on the national interest, deal with things that he can handle domestically. If there's a problem with oil supplies, let's drill our own oil and gas in the North Sea. That's what I would be focusing on right now if I was Prime Minister.
So you're saying that there doesn't seem to be a clear plan from Donald Trump, and obviously blocking the Strait completely is going to lead to presumably higher oil prices as well. So do you think it's a bad idea for America to be doing it?
Well, it's quite clear that there is a problem that needs solving. There is a war between the US and Iran. Obviously, Iran is an enemy of our country. We are on the side of the United States in that, but there needs to be a plan. Iran is already carrying out a blockade of those straits. It's having an impact globally. It will eventually have an impact in Europe and in the United Kingdom. We're already seeing some of that. What is the solution? Something needs to be done. However, I'm not in a position to give operational sort of suggestions on what should be happening. I'm not privy to those details. So I can only talk about what is very clear, and that is that we are causing even more damage by not harnessing our own oil supplies at a time when we can see oil and gas supplies across the world just shrinking.
I mean, you've been pretty scathing about the state of the military. Could we get involved in this blockade even if we wanted to?
Well, this is one of the things that I was talking about on Saturday at the London Defence Conference. I gave a speech where I said, before the war in Ukraine, we were able to send munitions support, whereas with this war, it took 2 weeks to get HMS Dragon out of Portsmouth. What's happened? What's happened to all those plans? Where is the defence investment plan? Where is the money? The Prime Minister keeps talking about how he's increasing defence spending, but it's all words. There has been no action at all since he came in.
But you take responsibility from the previous Conservative administration as well, right? For not spending enough on defence.
Defence spending went down from 1989 to 2022. Actually, when I was in Cabinet, we increased defence spending. And I can't take responsibility for what my predecessors did. They have to do that. I don't have a time machine. What I can do is say what the Conservative Party will do now. Mistakes were made in the past. I'm not going to repeat those mistakes. We need to start spending money on defence. That's why we found money for a sovereign defence fund, putting the two-child benefit cap back in place so we can have more troops. We've got a plan to 3%. Labour don't.
You also want to recruit 6,000 more soldiers. I mean, can you see a situation where you might back some kind of conscription? I mean, we've seen that in other countries.
I don't think we need conscription. What we need to do is make sure that we incentivise people to go into our armed forces. That means better pay, better equipment. And that's what the money from the two-child benefit cap can do. We talked about getting an extra 20,000, 14,000 reservists, 6,000 regulars. But I don't think we need to be talking about conscription. Let's make sure that we actually look after the troops that we've got. We could stop persecuting them. Labour's Troubles Bill, for example, just hounding veterans endlessly. That's the kind of thing that puts people off joining the army.
Now you wrote an article this weekend about a collapse of consequences, and you said that is what has led to scenes like the looting that we saw in Clapham in South London. Now, there are a few themes in this I'm keen to pick up on, actually. But first, I just wanted to clear one thing up, because you said, while the majority of young looters in Clapham seem to have Caribbean or African heritage, the fact is that children in Lagos and Nairobi don't behave that way. You're not saying that Lagos is a safer city than London, though, right?
No, of course not. What I'm saying is that you don't see children looting for fun. What we saw in Clapham was young people basically saying, we know nothing's going to happen and we don't care. Consequences matter. It's not about the safety of cities, it's about the behaviour. It's about the behaviour of young people. That's quite important.
And I'm keen to talk about that as well. But just to be, I'm not saying London is safe, right? But I've lived in London my whole life.
It's a relatively safe city. But things are getting worse.
Yes, safe, right? If you look at, Lagos, for example, the World Population Review says personal security, London is at 20.
As I said, this is not a comment about the security. I've been very, very vocal about problems in African countries, Nigeria especially. But it is clear that when you look at the behaviour of children, you do not see young children running around, looting, laughing, filming themselves in places where they know they won't get away with it. This is about stopping people from getting away with things. If you do not punish, if you don't catch criminals, if you allow shoplifting to happen and effectively decriminalize it, expect it to get worse. And what I'm saying is that those people who want to point out the race of those children, it's got nothing to do with their race. It's the fact that when when bad behaviour happens, people aren't punished. If you don't punish bad behaviour, you will get more of it.
You say in the article, in Nigeria and Kenya, the boundaries are clear and actions have consequences. Parents, communities and authorities do not wring their hands or look the other way. Now, look, we know the arguments about authorities. They're being quite well rehearsed. I'm interested in what you mean when it comes to parents. Do you think, I guess, soft parenting is partly to blame here?
Well, I mean, we could have a whole session on what we mean by soft parenting, but parents need to know where their children are. They need to give them boundaries, and they need to make sure that they also enforce discipline in the household. I don't know what the parents of those children were doing or saying, but if I found out that one of my kids was out there, they would be in a lot of trouble. That's the sort of thing that we need parents to do. We don't want them to just assume that, well, if the police aren't saying anything, it doesn't matter. We need people to be looking after their children. Personal responsibility is critical if we're going to have a functioning society.
And do you think that's part of the problem in the UK? Parents not, I guess, taking responsibility in enforcing that discipline?
So I think that we should be finding out where the parents are in this. I don't know what those parents were doing. I do know that the authorities weren't doing very much. So that was particularly an article about where are the police? What is society going to do about this sort of behaviour? If we condone it, it's only going to get more. And everybody has a part to play. Parents, teachers, the police, and even government. But assuming that government can fix everything, I don't think is the right way of going about it.
What about absent dads? Do we need to start talking about that as well?
Again, I don't know whether those parents had their fathers at home or not at home, but a family with two parents in the household is easier in terms of looking after, in terms of looking after children. It's very difficult being a single parent, however that happened. So, of course, we don't want to see fathers walking out of their children's life. Mothers, less likely to do it. It does happen as well. We want to see both parents looking after their children, but properly enforcing discipline, personal responsibility, giving them boundaries, even moral sort of instruction. What is good, what is bad, how to behave. But what those scenes in Clapham showed me was that lots of young people, and let's be frank, adults as well, people just think that they can do stuff and get away with it. They go into shops, take things, they walk out. We see endless videos of it. They're laughing in the face of authority. And what I would like to see is the government doing something about it. That's why we've got a campaign to take back our streets. More police officers, yes. Immediate justice. If you spray graffiti, you've got to clean it up, not get someone from the council, to do it. Let's have a little bit more of that.
We haven't got much time left. There's just a couple of other things I did want to ask you about as well. You're criticising Keir Starmer and also some institutions for not implementing the Supreme Court ruling about gender relating to biological sex.
Yes.
Who specifically are you talking about here? What organisations are not implementing the law?
NHS trusts, classic example. They haven't issued guidance. I've met so many nurses, Sandy Peggy, Jennifer Millay, the Darlington nurses. All of them failed by NHS trusts that are effectively breaking the law. These women are winning their cases. The guidance has not come out, either from the Department of Health, where Streeting hasn't done anything, Bridget Phillipson hasn't done anything. And that's because they don't want to do anything. Keir Starmer doesn't want to do anything.
I guess they would say that they need to get it right. It's really important for them to look at it and to get it right, and because there are vulnerable people who are involved in this. The
Supreme Court has reaffirmed the law as it always stood. This is not a complicated thing. This is not complicated. I remember working on guidance in government. It's not complicated. Anyone saying they don't know how to get it right from, having women's dignity and privacy should not be in government. This is not complicated.
Just very finally, there have been reports out today saying that the government is preparing to align with a single market, particularly in relation to food and drink, without a parliamentary vote. We spoke to the government earlier. It seemed like there is going to be some kind of vote on any change. If it helps growth, if it helps bring down food prices, is it a good thing to move a bit closer to the EU?
The problem is it's the worst of both worlds. It won't help growth. Why should we be out of the EU, able to make our own choices, not take those decisions.
It would help growth, wouldn't it? Reducing paperwork.
It's the worst of both worlds.
That would help growth.
So, what happens if? Remember, we are a competing economy. Taking EU rules without having a vote on them is completely wrong. If you want to be in the EU, come out and say we want to go back into the EU. That's what they're not brave enough to do. So they're picking this weird hybrid, which is the worst of both worlds. It's not in the EU, it's not out, it's just doing whatever the EU is doing.
Well, they would say it's the best of both worlds, right? They would say that it is, closer alignment and smoother trade, but also...
No, it's the worst. It's the worst of both worlds. And we lose certain things. So, for instance, our cheap power plan to scrap VAT on bills, we wouldn't be able to do that. EU rules don't allow that. We've got a fuel crisis right now. Our planes are able to carry more fuel from foreign countries, not in the EU. EU countries aren't allowed to do that. We'd have to sign up to that. There are all sorts of bad things that they would smuggle in. This is really the result of a government that's run out of ideas. They came in, we'll take the winter fuel, we'll tax private schools, do a bit of assisted dying. They've run out of ideas. And this is them just looking to the past rather than looking to the future. We've got much better ideas that will actually create growth.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you very much. Good to have you on the programme.
Thank you.